What is happening? Okay, so I'm going to do another UDF, and this UDF is going to be a search instance. So, for instance, the current search function, let's say I had some text that looks like this, is a pipe symbol, and this is also a pipe symbol. Please return the second pipe. If I had a string, such as that one, and I wanted to do a lookup for the second pipe, I would have no way of doing it. So for instance, if I type in search and I say equal search within, I'm just going to say search for the pipe. I'm not sure where to start to get the second one, so I'm going to put the first one in. Oops, got my arguments mixed up. So I'm going to say search for the pipe within cell B5. No start number. And it returns 11. So I guess to get the second one, I would have to do another search, and I would say, hey, find the pipe within this text. Start number would be 11. Let's just say start number plus 1. Okay, so now it's saying 32, and basically that gives me the second pipe number, but that's kind of annoying. I really would like to just say, hey, find the second pipe, because I don't really know what it's going to look like. So I can do that by creating a user-defined function. This is the second video of that series, so I'm going to show you what that looks like. If you hit Alt F11, it brings up your Visual Basic IDE, or development environment. And this is basically where you can write your code for your own functions. I'm not doing any classes or any object-oriented stuff, I'm just doing modules. But as soon as you write the function in the module, Excel recognizes that function and you can just find it in here. Okay, so for instance, if I type equals concat range, it'll show me the exact one we did before, and if I hit Control-Shift-A, it gives me the arguments. So we're doing the same exact thing. We're just going to make a function on the back end that will appear as just an ordinary function on the Excel side. So the first thing we do is hit Alt F11, and that brings up this window. This is the development environment, like I mentioned before. It has the default window has this locals window, which has your variables or expressions. The values, while you're stepping through, it'll go through basically what those evaluate to, and then the types. So is it a string, is it an integer, long, and so on. The window on the left is your project window. So this window kind of shows your current project. So for instance, I have a worksheet called All UDFs opened up, and I'm in Module 2. But as you can see, there's a few other tools I have going on over here. So we type our code in the module right here, and if we're creating a function, which always has a return type, what I would type here is say function, and then the name of my function. So I'm just going to call this search instance. It's actually going to have 3 arguments. I'm going to have the cell as one of them. I'm just going to say it's a string because if I'm doing text manipulation, we're obviously working with strings. The second argument would be, what am I searching for? So I'm going to call this char search string. I'm also going to make it a string. And then I'm going to have a third argument, which would be instance. So you know what? We should actually reorganize these to be more like the actual search function. So in the search function, they have the search string as the first argument, the cell as the second argument. I'm going to say the instance number will be my third argument. So inst as integer. And then I'm going to hit enter, and it changes it with all the colors. And that's the colors blue is VBA's keywords. So function is a keyword, end is a keyword, as, and string. So the first thing I'm going to do is set a variable, an integer, to 0, and I'm going to call it inst count. As we're iterating through the cell, this inst count is going to count how many times we find the search string. So I'm just going to say dim inst count in camel case equal to 0. I'm sorry, as an integer, and then let's make it equal to 0. And then I can start kind of coding. I'm going to use something called a for loop. Excel has a lot of support for many different types of loops. For is one of my favorites, but obviously it has things like do while and do until, and or a straight do loop. You don't even have to have the criteria. So I'm going to just say for I. I is a very common variable used with fors. So I'm going to say for I equals 1 to the length, which is an Excel function, to the length of the cell, and then I'm just going to say, hey, next I, close off that for statement. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is see if the current character of the cell that I'm looking at is equivalent to the search string. So I'm going to say if the mid, another Excel function, of the string, so if the mid of the cell and my start number is going to be I, because we're going to be cycling through this. Having a new start number will be a new placement within that cell. And the length will be the length of my search string. So if my search string has, if I'm searching for a string that has 2 characters, the len will be 2. And that way I'm comparing every 2 characters to the search string. So I'm going to close that off. I'm going to say, so if takes a Boolean expression, so I have to use Boolean operators or comparative operators. So I'm going to say if this mid of the cell is equal to the search string, and then I'm using VBA, so I have to use a then statement. Then I'm going to take my inst count. I'm going to say inst count equals inst count plus 1. That's what I was talking about, how we're going to have to iterate that inst count every time, because if I set inst to 2, I'm going to want this to go up 1. So then I can actually write another if statement and just say if the inst count is equal to inst, so for instance if I set this to 2, if it equals, then search instance, which is the name of the function, so this is the return statement, is equal to I. And I'm gonna write an exit statement right here, so I can leave the for statement and say, alright, go quit the function. So exit for, and I'll close off this if, end if, and I have this if statement to close off as well, end if, and I already wrote my next I portion of it. So that's basically all there is to it. Let's go check and see if it works. I'm just going to move this guy out of the way, and here we have this method which returned 32. I'm just going to say equals search instance, Control Shift A to bring up the arguments. My search string is going to be that pipe character. My cell is going to be this guy, and my instance number is going to be 2. And voila, it brings up 32. So anyway, that's how you do that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment below, and I'll do my best to answer it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.